What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 233 of the Fantasy Focused podcast. Ryan Levy here with my boys, Derek Tate and Matt Bucks. We are post week one already, gents. Hate to see it, but it was an action-packed week. Had a lot of injuries, a lot of big performances. Eager to get into it. How you gents doing?
You sound so pessimistic. Did you have like a bad week in week one with your fantasy football teams? I mean, your army of fantasy football teams?
I didn't do as good as Bucky did. I know Bucky went like 7-1. I think I was 10-10 in paid leagues. I
went 5-1. I had a good week too.
You guys crushed.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's all prep work for me. Obviously, I mean, if I've known for anything, it's analysis, prep work, and really leaving no stone unturned in my fantasy preparation. So I just want to thank Derek Tate for showing me the light, and I will continue to ride his coattails.
Oh, and you know that I'm just built on hot takes and shooting off the top of my dome, baby. Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, man. Well, you know, it's the ever elusive standard format leagues that I tend to struggle in still. I don't know what it is. I just can't succeed in these standard formats.
You got to just think yardage. Like, that's all that you got to do is figure out who's the most efficient with their touches and then figure out those counts. I mean, it's simple, really, if you think about it.
I mean, listen to Buck. RTs, requisite touches. He's just going to keep pumping. He's going to keep hitting that easy button. Serenity now, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair. So let's get into the injuries first, because I feel like that's why I may sound a little grim. It's depressing to look at. I don't know if it's the no preseason thing or what, but it seems like there was more injuries than usual. The immediate RIP list, I hate to bring that back so early in the season, but Marlon Mack out with Achilles. That's a rough one, but Jonathan Taylor owners are excited due to requisite touches.
What about Nadeem Heinz owners?
I know. We need to talk about him as a pickup this week.
If he's available in your league, I go and get him. I think that this unmuddies the waters real quick. Clearly defined roles now. I mean, Taylor will be involved in the passing game. He was far more involved than I thought he would be. But Nadeem Heinz is going to be more than just a spell guy. He will be in there and have specific packages for him. And really, if you take a look at that Jacksonville first quarter worth of snaps and touches, Taylor basically didn't see the field. Heinz did, along with Marlon Mack. So, I mean, you know, definitely feel for Marlon Mack, former USF Bull. But, this clears the way for Jonathan Taylor to be a top 15 back on a weekly basis.
For sure. But if you look at the second half of that game when Mack was out, I mean, Taylor definitely took the brunt of the carries there. But I agree with you guys. I think Heinz definitely has value. I'm curious to see. I think he had like 8 catches. Is he going to be like that Eckler piece in this offense for P. Riv?
I think it's safe to say that he's going to do his best impression. We saw his prowess receiving the football in NC State. You know, he played almost as much as a slot man as he did in the backfield there. We know one thing about Phil Riv. Big distributor. Not just on the football field, loves distributing. And he's just fantastic at finding his running backs, whether it's a flat route, whether it's running something over the middle. The guy just loves dumping it off to his backs. And so I think we're going to actually see a legitimate shot for Nadeem Heinz to consistently climb up these rankings week after week.
I mean, think about it. 17 passes caught by running backs in week one for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, that's a high number. So, and do I think it'll be that high every week with no Marlon Mack? Probably not. But, I mean, if we're talking like 10 to 12 receptions every week, I mean, I think Nadeem Heinz has to have somewhere around 5 to 7. I mean, it's just going to be a ho-hum season in PPR. He'll probably be a flex option for the rest of the year.
I'm curious to see where you rank him once we get into our waiver wire pickups this week. Like, where would you rank him in comparison to like Benny Snell and all that? But we'll talk about that soon. I also want to talk about Lev Bell because we've already got a question in here about Lev Bell. He was placed on IR today, so he's due to miss 3 weeks. I got a little nervous when I saw the alert come up for IR, but I forgot that it's only 3 weeks this year. That's happened to Debo as well, and some other players. But what do you guys think about Caitlyn Bellage now that Bell is out? Victor wants to know. I am not ever getting on the Caitlyn Bellage train again. I can tell you that much personally, but what do you guys think?
No.
Definitely not, Victor. Let's just move on. I don't have anything. I don't have anything to say about Caitlyn Bellage. I don't want to trash the man, but let's not talk about him.
He loves running straight into the hind parts of his O-line.
Yeah, he's not good.
He runs with his head down. It's a really rough scene for Caitlyn Bellage.
I mean, he was less than 3 yards per carry last year, if I'm not mistaken.
If I'm not mistaken, the show Bird Box actually has their people with something over their eyes. That's essentially Caitlyn Bellage running the football.
Except he's way faster than Sandra Bullock.
That'll give him.
Faster. Yeah.
That'll give him.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get to this question real quick before we continue down the path of injuries. Todd, thanks for joining, dude. Should I start Malcolm Brown or James White?
Real quick, I'm going to go Malcolm Brown.
Yeah.
Just real quick. I mean, he had a great week one. He actually looked the part of the best back in that backfield. So, I know that we're not doing a ton of Q&A right now, but I mean, Malcolm Brown in a real short.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys got questions, fire them in here. I'll always mix them in.
Malcolm Brown until he's not the option. That's
right.
how I look at it.
I'm with you guys on that. I actually started him in a couple leagues, so I feel good about Malcolm Brown. I mean, that's obviously encouraging. But continuing down the injury path here, Michael Thomas, high ankle sprain. I mean, he's only listed as questionable right now. High ankle sprain is rough, boys. I'm nervous about this one. Michael Thomas owners, to me, should be.
Well, think about how it even impacted someone like Saquon Barkley last year. I mean, yes, he was able to play through it. In his timetable, he returned far sooner, or at the very, very, very earliest portion of that timetable originally estimated. But he wasn't the same guy until the very, very end of the season. So, yeah, it's very concerning for Michael Thomas owners because in particular, I mean, in probably 95% of leagues, you had to invest a first-round pick in him to even get him on your roster, which it's devastating. You took him so you could have that high safety floor, and here he is. He's already dinged up after week one. So definitely stock up for Traquan Smith and Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, I'm on board with Manny Sanders. I know he didn't do much till the end of the game there, but I think he's going to see a big uptick here. If you're a Michael Thomas owner, I hope they don't rush him back because if he's playing in week 2, that's a major concern for me. A high ankle sprain is not just an ankle roll. I know that's like a 3 or 4 week thing that can linger all year, like you said. So
I hope they give him that O designation sooner rather than later because that's going to be a travesty if you're sitting there hanging by a thread on Sunday at 1:00. It's a Monday night game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, couple injuries at tight end as well. Blake Jarwin out for the year with an ACL. Hate to see that. There was a lot of upside for this kid this year in a high potent offense. So that's a bummer. I mean, he was kind of a later round sleeper, but some fantasy impact there. George Kittle with a knee, same knee he's had issues with before. You guys nervous about that?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, of course. I mean, another player that you're having to invest a high amount of draft stock to be able to get on your team. So Ross Dwelly, if you're a George Kittle owner, Ross Dwelly is worth a speculative ad. And if you end up using him, that sucks. But you'd rather have him than not replace that. Because right now, think about it. Like, there's Kendrick Bourne. There's the slew of running backs. I mean, the running backs caught half of Jimmy Garoppolo's completions over the past week. But I'd still rather have Ross Dwelly or whatever the tight end production is out of San Francisco, particularly because in that Shanahan scheme, a lot of play action, a lot of tight ends running around wide open behind the linebacker. So pick up Ross Dwelly, but I'm way more optimistic about him than I am Michael Thomas.
Well, they just picked up the Mohamed Sanu.
Right.
And Jordan Reed, my apologies. Jordan Reed's the guy to go and get, not Ross Dwelly.
Yeah, they did sign Mo Sanu, and while we're recording here, Ian Rappaport did just tweet out that the Michael Thomas injury was worse than anticipated, and he will miss several weeks. So, like I said, high ankle sprain. Shout out to the Fantasy Foot Doc. You know, I got that foot and ankle information in the brain up here. You know, so I can just tell on diagnosis. Like, who was it? Phil Lindsay's got turf toe. Not great. Not great. Melvin Gordon stock going up.
Way up. I'm all about Melvin Gordon now, man. I mean, it was the only reason why I was low on him and wanted to stay away from him was because of Phil Lindsay. But yeah, I mean, I thought that Melvin Gordon was the best player on the football field outside of Noah Fant for the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football.
I was impressed as hell with Fant.
Noah Fant looked great. I'm excited about him.
And I mean, it just sucks that I don't know if Fant's going to keep up that type of volume on a weekly basis once Cortland Sutton comes back.
Right. I hear you. And Drew Locke looked pretty good. You said we were texting him during the game, and as soon as you said that, he threw a disgusting pick. But he looked pretty good for the most part.
It was Danny Dimes that I did that to.
Oh, I thought you did it on Drew Locke.
No, it was Danny Dimes.
Tate's the mush.
It was literally within 15 seconds. It was.
He was like, "Did you see that run by Marlon Mack there? Oh no."
The old announcer's jinxed. Yeah, it sucks.
What a catch over the middle by Kittle. Oh,
dead.
Christ.
Awful. Yeah. Couple other injuries I want to talk about. We were down on Devonta Parker. He actually started the game pretty decently against New England, and then he goes out and aggravates the injury. So now I'm certainly concerned with Devonta Parker. You hate to see that. I loved him as a wide receiver 3 this year, who was going to return top 15 value, in my opinion, but hammy. That could be hampering him all year.
I think that we have to continue to learn our lesson when it comes to when players have soft tissue issues on their lower body in the preseason. Like, I know that the information was not very, in fact, teams didn't have to disclose what the injury was in the preseason, but when we're dealing with lower body injuries, I just think that it's incredibly risky to invest because those soft tissue injuries can be aggravated so quickly and easily. It just sucks, man. Hate to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sutton didn't play. We didn't really talk about that because we didn't know before last episode. Galladay.
How about old Stonehands, Jerry Judy?
Guy
couldn't catch a cold yesterday. Awful, man.
No offense to
any of those drops? They were bad, dude. They were ugly.
Not as ugly as the kicking game on the other side.
Yeah, he still looked real shifty, though. Judy will be just fine.
Judy's already probably the best route runner in the National Football League. That's how good he looked.
You talking to a guy who just had 15 catches? Nuke Hopkins?
I'm just saying, Judy was woo-wee. Boot, scoop, boogie all over the field. Can't touch him.
Look, if you speaking of Bucky, if you pass on Michael Thomas in the first round, which I know most of us do on this podcast anyway, and you ended up with Nuke Hopkins in the second or even the third in some cases, I mean, you're feeling good right now with Nuke Hopkins. I mean, that was impressive for sure.
Yeah, so far so good there in Arizona. There are a lot of question marks for whatever reason. that shit still works.
Right.
Not for Christian Kirk. 1 catch, 0 yards.
Yeah, not great, man.
But D-Hop, man, that's a hell of a debut with a new quarterback.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kyler looked good, too. I mean, that was a huge game for them. Huge game.
Yeah, you go and beat the defending NFC champions in their house. Now, granted, no crowd, but still, you go on the road and beat a team of that caliber on week number 1 in comeback fashion. Cardinals are going to be dangerous, man.
Yeah, I was actually impressed with their defense, too, man. I mean, to hold them... San Fran to such a low point total with a team that dominates the run game. I mean, tip of the hat to Arizona. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. One other injury I want to mention before we move on, James Conner went down on Monday Night Football. He's probably going to miss a week or two at least. Benny Snell's stock is up very high. I love Benny Snell. I actually drafted him in a couple leagues. I know you did too, Tater. But he's a free agent in most leagues. So he's number 1 on my list this week.
Yeah, he's right up there as far as players to go and get this week. Nadeem Heinz is right up there too, though. Right among the top, and we'll get into it in a little bit here. But I thought Benny Snell looked exponentially better. I don't know exactly when James Conner injured his ankle, but regardless, Benny Snell lost I think 10 to 15 pounds this offseason, and it shows because Bucky, the one thing that I didn't think that he had at Kentucky was a ton of burst. I thought that he had wiggle for a bigger running back, but I didn't see a ton of quick twitch acceleration consistently. The change of direction, he's so much lighter and quicker on his feet that you combo that with his power, this dude has top 20 potential on a weekly basis if he is the lead ball carrier for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, he looks the role right now. The way he looks body-wise, shiftiness, vision, everything looked really, really strong for him. So it's something that, I mean, I always thought he had it. You always doubted it. I don't know. It's good to see it come into play, but you need that consistency. So you never know here with James Conner. What is it going to be? Is it going to be a game or two? Is there going to be 6 games?
This is just the James Conner treatment, man. Like, you know, I've come to expect it from this guy at this point. You know, he's going to be lingering, and then he's a game time decision, and then he's going to play and he's going to shit the bed. And Benny Snell is going to go out there and carry the ball 20 times.
It's not going to happen anymore, though. I think that with the way that we saw Benny Snell play yesterday, that guess what? If James Conner's not 100%, they're giving this kid a look, like, period now.
They should.
I mean, he set a career high in rushing yardage with 113 yesterday, and I think he broke like 4 or 5 tackles. And Bucks, I always believed in his like ability to play through contact, but it was just that, did he have enough burst to be able to really make defenders miss or even take advantage of when plays are blocked correctly? I didn't know if he had enough athleticism at the next level.
Sure.
He's a big, strong back, but now you give him just a little bit of a bump in the speed department, he looks like a completely different guy and a difference maker in the backfield.
He was just carrying some extra weight, needed to cut the sled, you know?
I'm really upset, though, about Conner. I think I joined a lot. I didn't invest in him early. I had him as a 9th-round keeper. So, thankfully, I do have some ammunition behind him. But, damn, if you drafted him end of the 3rd round, and depending on how your draft shakes out, I know there's probably people that draft him end of the 2nd round out there. I mean, that's just brutal because now you're going to have a perpetual guessing game almost every week, I feel like. Oh.
Yeah, I agree, man. I only have 1 share of him in 20 paid leagues, so I'm feeling pretty okay with that right now. And I think only 1 share of Mac, too, or maybe 2. But I do, at the end of this episode, I want to spend 5 minutes talking to you guys about guillotine strategy because, like, I feel nervous. We're playing in our first guillotine league together.
Yeah, look at us. We all get that smirk on our face. Like, who are we gonna? We can't talk too much. We can't show our hand. But I mean, we can talk about it though. It's interesting.
But we survived. All 3 of us survived. We eliminated 2 of 18.
Survived without Miles Sanders. Props.
Yes.
All right, I got to tell you all about that real quick. This isn't like, hey, listen to my fantasy team. Woo! This is more how insane my brain was revving. So we got to the point where I had to set my lineup. And you only have 4 bench players. One of mine was a quarterback. Another one was a wide receiver. So, I had to make a choice. I'm sitting there in the very last second. I'm talking like 12:59. I popped Malcolm Brown in there.
Woo!
Woo-wee! Telling you, sometimes you just make that right call. And it was purely because of last year. That was the only reason. Last year, week 1. It's the only reason I put in Malcolm Brown.
Man,
well, it worked out for you, bud. It worked out for you. You survived. That's all it takes. You just got to survive.
Yeah, but now is when it gets tough. I have no idea how much to bid on these guys.
Listen,
and our wacky commish just bumped it from $100 free agent budget up to $1,000. So now the possibilities feel like they're endless. God, now it's just playing mind games, ninja.
I spent at least an hour today, like trying to cross-reference strategies and guillotine and how to bid on players.
Not me.
I still have no idea what I'm doing.
I'm letting it rip. Whatever number comes to mind is what my gut tells me. I'm just going with it.
Well, I know. I mean, like just, and I don't want to get hung up on this topic, but for example, so you guys know, the available running backs, the top 2 in our league together are now Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor. So essentially, everyone's players that get eliminated get released into the free agency pool. So it should be interesting to see who's bidding what on who, but. Man, I had to spread some bullets around today. It's going to be interesting.
Tate, I know your bid is somewhere around $800 for Jonathan Taylor.
It's getting up. It's getting up there. Getting up there.
Yeah.
Thanks for driving the price up.
Oh yeah, because I already threw a 5 out there, and I know I'm not getting in with that. So anyway, let's answer a couple questions real quick before we get into our waiver wire pickups here. But Chris wants to know. Just seen that Mixon and Chubb are going against each other. Would you play both or swap in Akers or Ingram for one of them? Not really experienced fantasy player, by the way. Chris, for me, I don't care if they're playing against each other, especially in the running back department. Mixon and Chubb for me are the best 2 players by far out of these 4. So I'm going to stick with my guns there and play my 1st and 2nd round draft pick.
I agree with that.
in week 2.
Roll with your studs. Don't panic. I mean, I know Mixon and Chubb both had a rough week 1, but just stay the course. The fact that they're playing each other, I wouldn't worry about it. Mixon's a bell cow, but Chubb, I'm a little bit more concerned about. But I'd still start Chubb against Cincinnati. If he's going to have a big week, he should have himself a pretty nice game against this Cincinnati front.
Why don't they just stick with the program in Cleveland of riding Nick Chubb? When they do it, they win. When they don't, and they have this, we got to get all the receivers involved. We need to feed Odell Beckham, who's going to drop balls. Just give Chubb the football and you win. That's the recipe. Yet it's so maddening. And I thought it would change, but it did not.
Odell is such a bum, dude. I don't own a single share of that guy either. I don't want that negativity on my fantasy roster.
That means something when you have 20-something teams and you don't have one share.
Not a single share, and I'm not BSing you. Like that, like for me to have 0 shares, that's me lumping him with Alshon Jeffrey. That is how far Odell Beckham has fallen on my fantasy radar.
I don't even know if he falls in the same category because he's been playing. He plays and he gives you a shit performance. That's even worse than Alshon. At least Alshon, you can just get out of your lineup. I mean, you're just stuck with Odell.
Right. Victor, we're going to come back to your question when we talk about waiver wire here. Todd wants to know, should I start Darius Slayton or Tone Miller this week? Tone Miller has a better matchup. I'm not sure. They both had good games.
I don't see how you don't start Darius Slayton. When we were talking about heading into the season, we don't know the answer to the multiple choice question that who is going to be the breakout wide receiver or pass catcher for the New York Giants. Guess what? We got an answer to that question in week number 1. It is Darius Slayton. Slayton, man, the dude is just a damn ball player. That's all I can say about him. He's a gamer. He's a contested catch winner. And then when you add up the fact that he was creating separation consistently with his route running yesterday, there's nothing to dislike about Slayton. And he did that against Pittsburgh. I mean, he did that against a very good secondary and a very good defense. Anthony Miller, it was a great catch and a great throw in a comeback that should have never happened, but it did. But it's nothing against Anthony Miller. I just trust Daniel Jones a hell of a lot more than I trust Mitchell Trubisky, who damn near played himself out of a job on week 1 of NFL Sunday.
That fourth quarter, though.
I know.
Fourth quarter magic.
Mitch had one of the worst passes I think I've ever seen when I watched the all 22. It was just a steady 3-step drop. Wide receiver coming on the post route. He put it legitimately 7 yards behind the guy right at the defender who could have easily pick-sixed it. But he was so shocked at how important the pass was, he just batted it down because he probably was like, I got to defend my man. And oh, Jesus.
Man. It's like he's out there skipping rocks sometimes.
Mitch, watching that from the angle behind, it was incredible how that ball ended up where it ended up. Jesus.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm going Darius Slayton here. I love Anthony Miller. We're big fans here on the show. He's a talented player, but we're still talking about Mitch Trubisky here, right? And I'm actually a believer in Danny Dimes. I think he has a great fantasy season this year.
I thought that first touchdown pass he threw on a Yankee concept, which is just a deep post with a deep crosser at the tight end position, normally off play action. He climbs the pocket, a little bit of pressure coming up the field at him, uses his eyes to bring Minkah Fitzpatrick down, and then earns the nickname Danny Dimes by just throwing a 41-yard strike to Darius Slayton in stride. I'm telling you, Danny Dimes has some brilliance to his game. He still has to become a little bit more consistent he has to clean up his bad decision-making from time to time. But I see the path to him, Bucks, becoming a top 7 fantasy quarterback this year. It's there. It's just whether or not he can clean up his game a little bit.
Ooh, that's music to my ears, Tater, because I drafted him, as a starting quarterback in a few leagues. So people thought I was crazy and talking trash to me. But I mean, if you wait till the 12th round to draft a quarterback, you end up with a guy like Danny Dimes. And we're always, as fantasy players, we're always looking for that lightning in a bottle in terms of your quarterback position. Whether it's Lamar from a couple of years ago and this and that, where you're drafting these guys. So, I like him a lot this year. What about a defense to pick up this week? Todd wants to know. I'm going to throw out the Buccaneers. I think the Bucs actually played better defense than the box score will tell you. And they were top 10 down the stretch last year. So I know they're available in a lot of leagues. Actually, I like Washington's defense played really good. They don't have a great matchup this week against Arizona, but I mean, Chase Young's a difference maker out there. So I think they're a team worth keeping an eye on. And you could say the same for Arizona too. I think Arizona played a pretty good game on defense as well.
I actually like the Rams a little bit if we're streaming. Rams going to Philly. Rams shut down a pretty damn good Cowboys offense. I look for them to have another game against a team in Philly that struggled to put it together offensively versus the Washington Football Club.
I love that.
No, I'm with Bucks on that one. That was the one that jumped out.
Rams look good. Yeah, I'm a streamer on defense, so these are the teams I'm looking at too. So I'm definitely picking someone up different every week in most cases. But Dried Ocean wants to know: does the A-Rob situation affect his fantasy value? Not to me. I mean, he's just being a baby. He's salty because all these guys just got paid.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm worried about his Mitchell problem more than I'm worried about his contract problem.
I mean, he's still getting paid top 15 money. These contracts are new. This Cooper Kupp contract just happened last week. Now you're salty, bro. You shouldn't have signed 3 years ago then. Get out of here.
It doesn't affect me for right now. No. He'll be fine. If anything, he's still going to try to ball out. And if he can ball out with Mitchell Trubisky under center, he'll still be fine.
Oh, my favorite YouTube name, Cocaine and Waffles. Do you have any hesitation about Barkley going forward, or was last night hopefully a rare occurrence? Listen, we talked about this, Tate and I and Bucky. The three of us talked about how Pittsburgh has a great defense, and it's not an ideal matchup. Actually, Tater, you talked us into taking the less on the
you guys wanted to go over on that
right.
On that rushing total, and I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. No, look, the offensive line really struggled last night, so I mean, don't overreact to that. Saquon Barkley is still Saquon Barkley. He's always one play away from an 80-yard score. Just please don't panic on Saquon. He will be fine. It's just, and not to mention the schedule will get exponentially easier as the season progresses. Right. Just be patient with Saquon.
I'm not going to call this avid listener out, but I got a DM last night at 8:32 p.m. Should I panic because I picked Saquon second overall? You should know better by now not to panic after week one. Listen, I just told you I went 10-10 in week one. I'm not panicking. I might be a little salty, a little angry at some players, but I'm not panicking because the skill will win out. Have a little faith.
Have a little faith in the fact that Saquon Barkley is not going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers again this season.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you need to have faith in.
Precisely.
What tight end would you start this week, Goddard or Hunter Henry?
Goddard.
It's not even close. It's Goddard.
Yeah.
Goddard looks like the best tight end on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
There's some drama going on there, boys. I don't know if you heard any of that.
Well, Ertz wants a new contract, and if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm sitting there going, can you outplay the other guy first? I'm kidding a little bit, because Ertz has been great over the last 3 or 4 years when healthy, but I mean, I'm telling you, man, they don't need – I mean, Goddard is waiting in the wings, and he's even having flash games with Ertz in the lineup. So, I mean, I think that that's an uphill battle if you're trying to get a new contract, if you're Zach Ertz for the Eagles.
Was Goddard a South Dakota State alum or North Dakota State?
I think it was South Dakota State.
So he's a jackrabbit.
I believe so.
Wonderful.
I'd have to check. I know he got punched at a bar, like sucker punched. Wasn't it at a South Dakota bar?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Poor Goddard. Just sitting there with his family grabbing a meal and gets jacked in the face.
Oh, man.
Oh, that was this offseason.
Yes, yeah. It was recent.
Oh, he got absolutely lit up.
Clocked. Whole cocked. Boom.
Yeah, South Dakota State. Wonderful Britain, South Dakota. Might have to get a weather report for him going next live show.
Yes, there you go. Todd wants to know if you're nervous about Golden Tate if he plays this coming week. That could affect Slayton's production. I'm not worried about Golden Tate personally.
I'm not saying that Golden Tate won't have a role or see targets. Sure. I get that argument, but if you're asking me who I thought looked better, and the same rings true. I trust Darius Slayton's quarterback exponentially more than I trust Anthony Miller's.
All right, fair enough. Will says sorry he was late. He's listening to The Odd Couple. Shout out to Bucky and Sam. I love it.
Yeah, thanks for listening, Will.
Philly be like, don't let the door urge you on the way out. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't even know that they need him.
Oh, I mean, I don't want to say that. That's going too far. Because right now, I mean, Jalen Reagor isn't 100%. Deshaun Jackson didn't. I mean, that offensive line couldn't protect Wentz. They gave up 8 sacks.
Right.
They look bad, but then again, there was a lot of hype on the old Chase Young train, so that was proven true.
I can't believe I called that they rushed for less than 70 yards. Do
you want a cookie?
I do want a cookie. What's
that?
Pat me on the back, please.
All right.
So we got to get to these waiver wire pickups.
Yeah. Who's your number one guy this week?
Paris Campbell.
Ooh.
Me, Paris Campbell.
Number one guy.
Number one guy. I mean, he was right there with 9 targets this week, I believe it was, tied with T.Y. Hilton for the most on the team. He played predominantly out of the slot. And at this point in their respective career, I mean, we barely saw Paris Campbell last year because the dude had, 6 different injuries or something wild like that. I mean, this kid can absolutely fly. He's got the right prototypical size, and he's playing out of the slot with P. Riv, who's just wanting to get the ball into his playmaker's hands. And I also think that you're going to have a lot of play action, even though that offense, the running game really disappointed me for the Colts this past week. But I still believe moving forward that you're going to have plenty of play action for your boy P. Riv. And, I think Paris Campbell is – I'm not going to say he's the receiver to own yet in Indianapolis, but it's real close.
What is he available in? What percentage of leagues?
Probably has to be like 70% of leagues.
I'll tell you in a second. I was just looking it up. I guarantee you it's at least 70%.
Yeah. That's interesting. I love the talent there, and it was great to see that kind of come into the fold here this past weekend.
Yeah, he is he's rostered in almost 30% of leagues. So yeah. 70%.
Nice. Tate, right again.
That's a guess off the top of the dome.
Yeah, he's studied to see exactly what percent.
Oh, yeah, you know it. It's probably somewhere around, 70% of leagugs. Yeah.
You're too cool for school, Darren.
Even though 29.8, you were off.
71.64, yeah.
And when you round out the 2, you get 32.8.
Who else do you guys like? Bucky, who's your number one guy?
Oh, Nadeem Heinz for me. Look, this is a kid I drafted I'm in 8 leagues. I have him on 4 or 5 of my rosters. He's just somebody that's so damn versatile. I was never a Marlon Mack truther. I didn't think he was going to get hurt. So trust me, by no means did I predict that. But I did hold pretty steadfast that Nadeem Heinz would be a major difference maker with Phil Rivers under center. So because of that, I just think it's a no-brainer. If you're in a PPR format, Nadeem Heinz. And if you're not, I still would like for you to get Nadeem Heinz because I do think he's worth 50 yards per game, and he's going to sprinkle in touchdowns. So Nadeem Heinz for me is an easy number one waiver wire for this week.
I think that's a good one. I mean, he's only owned right now in 37% of leagues. So circling back to Victor's question here in the comments, if let's just say you've got $100 in your free agency auction budget, we're post week 1 now. What percent of that budget, assuming you have a full budget, are you comfortable spending on Nadeem Heinz? And my second part of the question is, how much do you spend on Benny Snell?
I think it depends on your format. If it's PPR, I'm willing to spend more money on Nadeem Heinz. If you flip the switch and it's standard, then I'm going, I'm going to prioritize Benny Snell. I mean, if $100, I'd probably be willing to spend 20% of my budget on both of those guys.
See, I'd say 30 for both. I'm right at 30.
Yeah, and then Tyler here says James Robinson worth keeping an eye on. Yeah, I mean,
For sure.
James Robinson you should have picked up before the week, honestly. But still, I just looked. He's only owned in 30% of leagues. I guess what I'm nervous about is when Armstead comes back, does Robinson even keep that job? I mean, he was okay, but, he still averaged less than 4 yards a carry.
He was the only running back in the National Football League this week that was the sole running back to see every single carry out of the backfield.
But he wasn't great.
But dude, they won. And
No thanks to him.
I disagree with that. I thought he was good, man. I thought he was good. I mean, I don't think he would no, is he probably just a guy? Probably. But I thought that in Jay Gruden's offense, man, he's looking for someone that's consistent. And I thought he was consistently above average given the circumstances.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, he looked okay. I'm not bashing the guy. It was nothing special. I mean, who are you going to start, him or AP?
Mr. Robinson's neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day for a neighbor. Sorry.
I don't know about that one, Levy. I would probably start James Robinson over AP at this juncture. And I actually have that scenario, and you'll notice J-Rob is up in my starting 11.
Listen, some people are going to have to make this decision this week. Are you starting Frank Gore, James Robinson?
You look down at your own roster.
He just did. That's a tell.
Some guys are going to have to make this decision, a.k.a. me.
I call your bluff.
Oh, man. No, it's a good thing I have 15 shares of Malcolm Brown just lurking on my benches right now.
All right, so what's the question here?
Yeah, go ahead. Finish, please.
Look at your roster again. Get the question out.
Oh, no, I was going to say AP, James Robinson, or Frank Gore. Who you starting?
James Robinson.
Probably James Robinson.
I'm going to Cyborg, even though they're just awful.
The Jaguars showed more life than the Jets did last week.
Oh, I know they did, but through the air.
Boy, you're just hating on James Robinson, man.
Dude, he had 16 carries and less than 4 yards a carry. What am I supposed to be impressed with? He's an average player. And trust me, he's a guy I mentioned in running back by committee before they even thought about getting rid of Leonard Fournette. So I'm just not.
I get it. That's fine. That's fine. If you're not high on him, you're not high on him. I'm just saying that I'd like his outlook more this week than I do the other two players you mentioned.
That's fair. All right, let's talk about some more receivers because to me there's a ton of value on the waiver wire right now. I mean it's crazy. Laviska Shenault Jr. Tater, I know you love this guy.
Laviska, sorry.
Again, but he still only had 3 catches, right? So we should temper our expectations a little bit. No.
How many times did the Jags throw the ball again?
I know, Derek. I'm just saying.
And they also handed it to him. Well, technically he was out of the Wildcat, but they still got him the ball. They got him 5 total touches. And did you see that little, sit down and reaccelerate on? Oh yeah, baby. Dude, Viska.
Oh, you're on that? You're that cool with him now? He's just Viska?
Oh, he's just Viska, dude.
Viska Shenault Jr. You ever hear the guy from Colorado calling his games when I was doing studying tape? I have. I know. Viska Shenault Jr. Hey, Viska Shenault Jr. He's got a good voice.
Yeah, but they probably had many meals together.
Probably.
Call him Viska.
Yeah, I'm not on. All right, so I'm not on. I will pronounce the guy's name correctly. Laviska Shenault Jr. My apologies.
Sorry to rain on your Viska parade.
Tate, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to bring back the bottom 5% for you. And here's who I'm going to pick up for you instead of Viska. Give me some Corey Davis.
Okay.
Corey Davis is owned in 4-point-something% of leagues. And to me, I look at these receivers. I've got Scotty Miller on my list. I've got MVS even on my list. I've got Bob Anderson, who's still available in 30% of leagues. Love me some Rude Boy Bob and his hair. But I feel like for the receiver position, I kind of want to just make Corey Davis my number 1 guy. And while everyone else is zigging, I'm going to spend $5 on Corey Davis and be happy about it.
You're not going to hear me say one bad thing about Corey Davis. He looks healthy. Last year, he was battling through a turf toe injury. which as a receiver, that makes you exponentially less effective and efficient. So for me, a healthy Corey Davis with now you have AJ Brown actually attracting attention away from Corey Davis. And once upon a time, remember, this guy was good enough to go in the top 10 of an NFL draft. Right. He still has boatloads of talent, and he's playing in a run-heavy scheme that is just going to open up the passing lanes all day long behind linebackers. I'm totally fine and on board with anybody spending some money on Corey Davis week 1.
Love it. Danny Messi, what's up? It's been a while, man. Hope you're doing well. Tyler said Robinson hurdled a man. All right, he's explosive. Would you drop Mike Williams for Laviska?
No, actually, Mike Williams looked good in week 1.
Yeah,
he wasn't even supposed to play. So I want to. Can we talk about Scotty Miller though?
Oh yeah, I want to talk about all these guys. I'm just trying to keep up with questions at the same time, you know.
After doing a little bit of film study on the Bucs, and I'm gonna drop that episode later this week, probably around Thursday. Scotty Miller consistently got open against the New Orleans Saints, and it wasn't just because everybody else is getting attention. The man consistently won on all 3 levels, and he's very, very quick and elusive once he gets the ball in his hands, yards after the catch, and he can also get vertical. So I mean, there was a lot to like on tape. 5 catches, 73 yards. And by the way, he drew like another 25-yard pass interference call on Patrick Robinson by getting vertical on him down the right sideline. So just keep an eye on Scotty Miller. I don't think that was a fluke that he caught 5 passes for 73 yards. I think he's going to have a pretty significant role for the rest of the season, really benefiting from Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and the rest of the pass catchers there on Tampa Bay.
Can we talk about Gronk if we're going to talk about Scotty?
Well, I thought we signed Gronk. What happened?
What the hell is going on here?
They were doubling him a lot. Like they dialed up specifically a couple different concepts to try to get him one-on-one opportunities on 3rd downs, and they were bracketing Gronk. And in fact, 1 3rd down, he didn't even make it off the line of scrimmage because they literally had 2 people. This guy hasn't played football in a year. And they had 2 guys on the line of scrimmage jamming Gronk and bracketed on the line of scrimmage. They clearly were saying, we're not letting him get going today. So that's what I think really happened to Gronkowski.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't expect big things from us in terms of our show, right? I mean, we predicted that, what did we say, Cam Brate would score the first touchdown for the Bucs.
It was O.J. Howard, but, I mean, we can't be right about everything.
Yeah. All right, let's before we get to some of these other players real quick. I'm with you though on Scotty Miller, but let me just get to some of these questions real quick. Okay. Odell, what are we doing with him? 10 targets looks promising. We talked about him earlier in the episode, Stan. I'm not an Odell guy, just not my guy. Any additional thoughts on Odell real quick, gents?
Throw him out.
Throw him in the batch room.
I'm benching him.
Yeah.
But wide receiver is so deep that I'm not dealing with Odell Beckham and that bullshit going on there in Cleveland with him in the passing game. I'm out on the Cleveland offense.
Right.
Until further notice. I'm out.
Austin, I hear you on that one, man. Willie Snead and Keelan Kohl are the top receivers in his league, so available, I should say.
I don't trust Willie Snead as far as I could toss him. Like, He does this in the first few weeks of every season, and then he fades into oblivion. That's what the guy does.
Dude, you got the Willie Snead hair going on right now, Buck.
Nah, man. I'm not nearly as fly as my guy, Willie. Willie's hair shits on my hair.
Stan,
I'm not trying to pull an Odell.
I assume you're talking about my Corey Davis comment here, Stan. Yeah, I mean, I've been burned by Corey Davis several times before as well. Here we go. We got a trade offer from Danny here. He wants our help with Eckler and McLaurin or Jonathan Taylor and Deontay Johnson. For me, I'm going to go Eckler and McLaurin.
If you watch that game, I am going to go with Jonathan Taylor and Deontay Johnson for the Deontay Johnson portion of it because I expect that Jonathan Taylor is going to be just fine. Like, he's playing behind a great offensive line. They're going to feed him the football. He'll be okay. Deontay Johnson, though, he had that odd fumble to start things out. There was a couple times where they threw him the ball, and it's like, I don't know if he read the playbook or even heard the play or some shit like that, because it just like the ball went whizzing by his head. And one time it like hit him on the hip or some shit. It was really weird. But that dude is so silky smooth when it comes to getting open. He's like, he's essentially a 7-Eleven on the football field. He's always open, man. I mean, it's just, you can't guard him. And eventually him and Big Ben will get on the same page. I'm going with Deontay Johnson and Jonathan Taylor. Eckler got vultured, and a Joshua Kelly looked really good. And Terry McLaurin, I mean, he's still a hell of a player, but
not so scary.
I hate that nickname. Terry Rozier has that nickname. Stop giving it to Terry McLaurin.
That's why I call him not so scary, dude. I'll never call him Scary Terry.
He's the touchdown scorer in Terry McLaurin, in my opinion. That's his name. But,
I just call him Gentleman Terry.
There you go. Buck, you're the deciding factor here.
Look, here's what I saw in week 1. I saw a ridiculous carry volume for Eckler, but a very limited exposure in the passing game. And that is because Tyrod Taylor just doesn't know how to check a ball down to save his life. He knows one speed, and that's go. Overheads into the sidelines. So I don't know how to feel. I feel like I'm sacrilegious here because I am an Eckler believer, but I'm with Tate. I'm going Jonathan Taylor and Deontay Johnson purely on an upside perspective here. It sounds crazy. It probably is crazy, but you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Who caught more passes in week 1? Jonathan Taylor. Who's going to get more carries in week 2? Probably Jonathan Taylor. Moving on. Look, Eckler is still a hell of a player, but all things considered, I think the arrow is pointing up on Jonathan Taylor, and more so than Eckler and Deontay Johnson and Terry McLaurin. I think they're going to be a wash, even though McLaurin's the number 1 there, but Deontay Johnson's in a better system with a better quarterback.
Can I mention a waiver wire potential pickup here that I think Tate is going to shit all over? How about Quintez Cephas getting 10 targets for the Lions? Only 3 receptions, but 10 targets, dude. That's just wild. And no, I understand Kenny Golladay was out, so that's not something you could lean upon. But Tate, Quintez Cephas?
Even though you need a sundial to actually properly record his 40 time, yes, he's actually an interesting and more so in like dynasty keeper leagues.
Yeah,
I'd want to stash him. But until Kenny Golladay comes back, I mean, 10 targets is nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
I think the efficiency wasn't there because they were playing Chicago.
Well, I'm thinking you don't want to do the high bids, right? Like, I'm not talking about throwing any sort of real money at this guy. But look, if you want a value option after you go through waivers, you're not high bidding, you really don't need a ton right now, but you want to see if that can build into something. 10 targets is nothing to sneeze at.
I think he even had a drop or 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't efficient, but I mean, you just the amount of volume. Deep leagues, yeah,
right.
100% behind that.
Yeah, anyone that gets double-digit targets has my attention, that's for sure. But you mentioned
Quintez Cephas is a great name.
It is a great name. Tater, you mentioned Kelly, though. Where do you rank him in terms of the free agents that you want to pick up this week?
Well, if we're going at the running back spot, which is where I'll start, I'll go, again, I already discussed how I have Benny Snell and Nadeem Heinz, depending on what your format is, 1 and 2. After that, I've got Joshua Kelly at 3. As far as running backs for this week, I mean,
what about? Let me ask you this, because we didn't really talk about this. I think most people assume Malcolm Brown is owned, but he's actually owned in 8% of leagues. So
I'll get Malcolm Brown. Then, if you need a guy to start this week, I would prefer Malcolm Brown over pretty much any of these guys. I'm assuming he was owned at this point, but yeah, I mean, he would top the list because if he does win, like if he puts together another performance like he did this week for maybe the next week or 2, I think that you're going to see this committee shift towards Malcolm Brown being what is it, like an acute or obtuse triangle where he's getting the most work of all these guys. The others will be involved, but I just think that he's going to be the guy to own in the committee.
I already think he is, and I'm a Cam Akers believer, so it hurts my soul, but he didn't look great.
Akers looked like just a guy, and I hate to say that because I don't think that about him as a player, but he did in week 1.
All right, so Josh Kelly, you're looking at what? Maybe 10% of your free agency budget, or what?
Somewhere right around 15-20%. Yeah.
Okay. What about in Washington? I was grossly disappointed to see Bryce Love was a healthy scratch. So are you running to pick up J.D. McKissick or Barber?
Well, Barber, I believe, had 17 carries for like 29 yards or something like that. It was as ugly as anything that I've ever been involved in. Like a picture of me, pretty much.
That's who he is.
He's
but he scored twice.
Yeah.
In standard formats, he outscored a vast majority of players.
Doesn't seem possible, yet it is.
God. So no, I'm not rushing to the waiver wire to pick up any of those Washington running backs not named Antonio Gibson.
How about Jared McKinnon?
Yes.
Eric McKinnon.
Yes.
He looked good.
In PPR formats, absolutely.
I mean, he's a bottom 5%er, Tater.
I would say he's somewhere around like 10% of your budget, 5 to 10% of your budget. I just think that we didn't see much of Tevin Coleman, and I think we see more of Tevin Coleman moving forward. But is there a world where McKissick gets himself, about 10 to 15% of the snaps, in the next couple of weeks? Yeah, and if he continues to produce, then that'll probably bump up a little bit.
These leagues that we're all in, none of these players are available.
Well, I play in a lot of leagues on purpose, so I don't play with a bunch of sharks. So I like to be profitable.
God, these
damn
shark leagues.
Every league we play in together is like a 14-man league, and half the people are in the comments here, and they know exactly what we're doing. It was like, drafting with these guys full.
I feel like a fat, overweight tuna, well behind the school of fish, getting swept up by sharks. I lost a fin last week. They'll probably go for my tail this week. I'll just float, hit the Gulf Stream, and just cruise.
I like that Cocaine and Waffles just asked, what are the odds that Gostowski is still on this team on Sunday?
What are the odds he makes it out of the city alive?
They should have left him there. They should have just not even invited him back on the team playing. Like, get out of here.
Thank you for winning the game, but, just find your own way home.
You know who I feel bad for in that scenario? I feel bad for all the poor bastards that took Tennessee -2.5 or -3, and instead, you got the ultimate mush bet of a backdoor cover because of a freaking kicker. Not even a backdoor cover, just a straight cover. That's pathetic from one of the greatest kickers of all time.
That's talking kickers here on Fantasy Focused.
Pathetic. You call yourself a professional? Come on, dude. You're a Hall of Fame kicker, and you can't make a 20-yard field goal?
Boy,
how about this? Steven Hauschka gets cut from the Bills. They draft this Seabass character who's comes in, and that was the craziest thing. Did you guys see the made field goal that they called no good?
Yes.
No, I missed that.
It was like a 49-yarder, this kid's first kick. It goes – it was legitimately in when they showed it again, but they called it no good. So he's flustered, comes out, doinks 2 more. Like he redeemed himself though. Seabass is my guy.
Love it. All right, couple more questions.
Boilermakers stat.
Goddard for real or week 1 production due to hurt Jeffrey and Rager? I think he's for real. He was for real last year.
He's real.
He's real.
Yeah, he was a top 10 tight end last year.
It's an imminent threat.
Would you trade Michael Thomas if you had a friend offering a half full pack of hot dogs? They're still fresh. I smelled them.
What's the brand on these dogs?
We talking ballpark Franks or what?
If they're ballparks, I'm not taking it. If they're Boar's Head, taking it. Especially if they still smell good. I
would trade them. If you can get something for him right now, trade him. It's your first round pick, though. What are you going to get? You're not going to get a first round player back.
I don't know right now. It's for damn sure. No. But so we're talking. We already took that. Gostowski still on the team. What do we got? JXN Glez. Should I start Chubb, Drake, Taylor, or J.K. Dobbins?
Jesus.
Of that crew, give me Kenyon Drake. I mean, Drake got off to a slow start because they played the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, like, let's, keep that in perspective here. I mean, Jonathan Taylor just played the Jacksonville Jaguars. I get that Marlon Mack's no longer there. He's going to have a huge role, but give me Kenyon Drake. That team was able to put up points against the 49ers, albeit late, but still, this offense, the arrow is pointing up. They will figure it out, and Kenyon Drake is going to be a huge beneficiary of that.
Are you scared of Chase Young?
Chase Edmonds?
No, I mean, they're playing Washington this week, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I'm not scared of Chase Edmonds, that's for sure.
Okay. I don't know, man. Chase Edmonds.
He's a good player.
I still like him.
He's a good player.
I'm not scared of Chase Young in particular. I mean, the Washington unit up front is going to be formidable as they were this past week, but no, I'm still okay with rolling with Kenyon Drake. I believe in the man.
I just want to know how
because he had one bad week.
I'm
that. He's fine.
I am not turning my back on Kenyon Drake. I love Kenyon Drake. I'm just trying to figure out how this guy has this option in week 2.
I think this might be a daily type of play here.
Right. I would go with Drake, but I think my second choice is still Chubb. I mean, based on matchup, I mean, I know Cincinnati's defense played decent in week 1, but I would go with Chubb as my second choice here, still over Taylor. I'm not benching Chubb right now. I just not benching him in week 2.
I'm going Taylor over Chubb.
I'm going Taylor over Chubb. Why? Look, did you look at the box score?
I did. I watched the game.
Didn't Kareem Hunt have more carries than Nick Chubb in week 1?
Yeah, he also fumbled, but so did Chubb. So, listen, we already talked about this. When they give the ball to Chubb, they win. When they give the ball to Chubb, they win. One of these days, they're going to figure it out.
I think the writing's on the wall, and Chubb owners they have a lot to be concerned about. Like, Kareem Hunt ain't going nowhere.
Well, we knew that before the season started.
Okay. Give me Jonathan Taylor. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Fine. That's your wait. Is that your pick? I thought you were going.
I'm going Drake and then Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Drake 1, Taylor close 2.
So you guys Chubb, are you guys gonna dump Chubb for Dobbins too?
No, I'll still go Chubb then.
Just want to make sure because Dobbins looked pretty good too.
Yeah, he looked okay.
He scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Ingram owners should be concerned for sure.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, that I agree with. Yeah, 100%.
Oh man, Jake says he put Tyler's liking my tilt. Jake put all his money on the Saints. Oh, that's a good bet, man. I mean, all the Bucks hype was real, and we did not deliver. So, do you think I dropped Goddard for Gesicki?
Quit talking shit. First off, quit talking shit about the Bucks. It's 1 week, but you know what? Congratulations to you, Jake. I'm glad you won money.
They get back on track this week.
Do I drop Goddard for Gesicki?
Oh, he corrects himself. Dried Ocean says, sorry, Gesicki for Goddard.
Yes. Answer is yes.
Yeah.
I would too. I like Gesicki though.
I got asked a couple of, I got a few texts regarding Gesicki or Fant. I'm very happy to report I came back at them with Fant.
That a boy.
My reputation, it precedes me.
It does. Should Eric drop his backup tight end, Evan Ingram, for Nadeem Heinz?
Yeah.
That's too far for me, dude.
No, I'm gonna keep rolling with Evan Ingram. He'll be better. He'll be better in the weeks to come.
Well,
I just think you're going to miss out on a real, your one opportunity to get a guy that I think is going to be a difference maker in a PPR format all year long. Now, I understand Ingram on his best day is that, but if he's your backup tight end, which to me tells me that you probably have Kelsey, probably not Kittle in this situation. Andrews, yeah. So,
yeah, I guess it depends on roster construction, and he does say backup tight end. So, I mean,
haven't we fallen into this trap before with Nadeem Heinz though? This just feels like a very eerily similar scenario with this guy. He's a talented player.
P-Rev throwing him the rock?
Correct. P-Rev's throwing him the ball. So, I just think we're going to see checkdowns a lot.
What kind of routes do you think P-Riv's kids are running in the backyard? Little dump routes. Okay. Little cross in angles.
Yes.
Pump and dump over the middle. Gets
I
a
guess
lot of reps at the home base.
It depends
Nadeem
on
was
your
there
roster.
yesterday, running more routes with the kids.
Fair. It depends on roster, but I like Evan Ingram. I'm not giving up on him yet. It depends who your tight end one is, I guess. If healthy,
it's Mark Andrews. Eric commented late down.
All right, cool. Yeah, in that case, you don't need him. You don't need him.
Then yes, depending on what running backs you need, then go and get Heinz.
I'd rather stream it, the backup for
Right.
tight end.
If he's healthy, Sanders or Gordon?
You mean Manny Sanders or Melvin Gordon?
No, I would assume that's
Miles Sanders
Miles.
or Melvin.
Okay.
No, it's Miles Sanders.
Yeah, that makes
all
more
things equal.
No, I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna go Melvin Gordon now with no Phillip Lindsay potentially. Give me Melvin Gordon, man. I mean, this guy. This will actually probably be the clearest backfield that he's had in a long time for this week. So, I mean, if we're going long term, then probably Sanders is the play. But if we're going right now for this week, give me Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, for this week, I'm on board with Gordon for sure. I don't know about long term. It depends on the severity of Phil Lindsay's injury, but.
Right.
I'm with you this week. Jake says this is a Chubb game. Kareem gets more touches when they're losing. I expect a lot of losing, but not this week. Heavy dose of Chubb. I mean,
Jake, that's the most succinct and realistic Browns perspective I've ever read.
It really is, man. They win when they're feeding him the ball. That's what I don't understand.
Even if things go awry early, go back to the well. And until you're at a point where you can't come back with that mentality, you just keep doing it. And Baker thrives off setting up the pass from the run. I just don't get it.
I just want to, can we give like a Jake a gold star or something? Because that may be the best comment I've read in a long time. And I expect a lot of losing, but not this week.
Right. That is gold, man. Heinz
You're about to get burrowed. I hate to say it.
Am I the only one that thought Joe Burrow didn't play terrible in week one?
He looked pretty good.
Dude, he had the game-winning touchdown called back because of an offensive pass interference on AJ Green. So, and he looked good on that final drive, dude. Composed, poised, just dunking his way down the field. I'm high on Joe Burrow, dude. I was encouraged, even though the modest stat line.
Yeah, I mean, I was encouraged too. They should have won that game. Another shitty kicker. Shocker. Just get rid of kicking in the NFL. I'm anti-kicker. I'm anti-kicker in fantasy football. I'm anti-kicker in the NFL. Just get rid of it. I hate it. I hate it.
Didn't you try out for kicker in high school once?
I can kick. I guarantee you I can still to this day at 34 years old kick a 30-yard field goal with ease.
30 yards is like nothing. I could kick I've never kicked a field goal. I'll kick it right now.
It wasn't nothing yesterday. This sounds like a fantasy-focused bet brewing here because I guarantee you cannot make an extra point, Bucky.
I think I could. I
don't think you could make an extra point.
Look, all things equal, you have a much stronger leg than I do. There's no doubt about that, okay? Having grown up playing soccer with you, you definitely have a better boot than I do, but I can make an extra point. That's a good $50 bet.
All right. So
how many opportunities do I get? 3?
I don't know. Well, thank God we got Tater that can hold it for us. You know, he's got some experience there.
True.
Thanks. If my money's on Buck. Buck can get a freaking extra point. Yeah. I mean, that's a 20-yard kick.
It wasn't easy yesterday, dude.
I got this.
Buck's got this shit.
Yeah, I got the boot. As long as my holder's doing his job, I'm good to go.
I mean, these guys don't even have fans and they can't make field goals. It's pathetic.
I mean, it's true. I don't know. It is perplexing. Gostowski's performance in particular just made me go. All right, Luis, tight end help. I have Hooper. Do I give him one more week with Njoku out? By the way, we didn't mention Njoku. Njoku is out. And grab a top running back like Heinz or Malcolm Brown, or grab Goddard and forget it.
Goddard and forget it, in my opinion.
I still believe in Hooper. I mean, listen, they got a lot of money committed to him.
You're burned by the Browns, bro.
Oh, I don't own a lot of shares.
Move on from Cleveland.
Oh, you're gonna move on after 1 week after a guy they just paid $40 million to?
Mm-hmm.
For Dallas Goedert?
That's ignorant.
For Dallas Goedert.
I'm just saying, if you can't get Goddard, who knows what's going to happen? I'd rather start I'd rather start Hooper and pick up Heinz or Malcolm Brown than waste my pickup on Goddard. Is the way I read this question is what I'm getting at.
Okay, that's fair. If you want to give Hooper another week, that's fine. I love Goddard. Give me some Dallas Goddard, dude. And everywhere and anywhere, man.
Cleveland sucks.
How much money has Cleveland cost you over the years?
I had no faith this year. Like, this is the first year I didn't draft Odell. I didn't draft any of the I own one share of Hooper, I think. I do have a couple shares of Chubb, which is disappointing so far, but we'll see.
It's only week 1.
That's right.
But I think Goddard is the future and the real deal there in Philly.
Of all the players that disappointed in week 1, the one that I feel like I have the most confidence in that will bounce back is Mike Evans. Mike Evans will be okay. I thought that Tom Brady's accuracy down the field and his willingness to let it rip vertically was something that was very encouraging. The one interception he threw to the Jackrabbit, Janoris Jenkins, was just, he kind of went rogue. He decided to go on like his alert hot route instead of going to the screen pass to Uncle Lenny and, threw a pick 6. And then the other one, Mike Evans just gave up on the post route. He was supposed to go to the middle of the field and try to split the safeties, and he just gave up on the route. By that time, the toothpaste was out of the tube. The ball was already out of his hands, and it looked like a horrible pick. So the Buccaneers offense is going to get it straightened out. Mike Evans he's not going to play Lattimore every week. He'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Look, I got a question for you guys. Who's your most pleasant performance of week 1? Like, who were you most pleasantly surprised with that you started even, or in general, a guy that you were just rooting for, you feel like he had a good game and you're pumped about it?
I'll say David Johnson.
Yes. Everyone forgets about that because it was all the way back Thursday already.
Everybody forgets about it because he's a Houston running back and he does what Houston running backs do. He's going to get you 15-plus points.
Give me, because I went out on a limb, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was my guy. I told you before Damian Williams opted out that he was still my dude. And I said he's going to be a top 10 running back this year. And that wasn't very popular until Damian Williams opted out, and he proved me right. So for 1 week anyway.
All right, fair enough. We got a couple in the comments here. Josh Jacobs, that was a big one. Gage,
absolutely.
Darius Slayton. For me, Robbie Anderson. I actually started old Rude Boy Bob in a league. In I think it was the Fantasy Focus Dynasty League, and it worked out well. So loved it. I think he could have a sneaky season. I've always been a fan of him. He's a big deep threat, and I think he plays a nice complement there to DJ Moore. So I kind of like Robbie Anderson as a wide receiver 3 flex option moving forward for the whole season.
Well, that Joe Brady offensive system is a heavy 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers. So I would not be surprised one little bit if you're just going to have those weeks where I think that it's inconsistent, but that's the case with most receivers. So yeah, I think that Robbie Anderson you got to be very encouraged by what you saw in week 1.
Calvin Ridley lived up to the hype. I know a lot of people were pretty big on him this offseason. Monster game. I mean, both of these guys. Matty Ice had a huge game. Julio, obviously, but just love to see that. Jimmy Grandpa. Any additional thoughts on week 1 or anything else you guys want to cover?
I think we about covered it, man.
Yeah, I think we got everything in.
I'm looking forward to Thursday Night Football. We got the shit fest between the Bengals and the Browns.
I'm looking forward to that thing.
I am too, man. I'm just hating on the Browns.
A lot of earthy tones in terms of uniforms.
Just hideous everywhere.
Levy's just growing grumpy in his age, man. Like going 10-10 in week 1 of fantasy, just pissed off at the world. Already lost a bet to me about DeAndre Washington catching.
That was void. You had to play a game.
Listen, if you have to void your bet, you lost.
Rewind the tape.
You're not going to pay me, but you still have to take the L. Because you thought that you were so delusional that you thought he was actually going to catch 40 passes. That means you take the L on this argument. He didn't even make the roster.
But I am smart. I always put a disclaimer when I make a bet with you, like I did on who's the asshole that got cut like 3 times from different teams, the tight end that I always kept calling a top 15. But I always put a disclaimer. If they don't make
that list is 100 players long.
Yeah, Gavin Escobar.
No,
I heard the guys
yes,
top
hey.
15 tight end. Yeah, there's about 75 a season, dude.
Austin Seferian-Jenkins. You heard it here first. Worst, most overrated tight end ever.
You're just a little late to the party.
Between 2016 and 2018, it was a whole different story.
Oh, man.
ASJ was the top boy for you forever, man. It was bullshit.
Devonte Adams, another big game there.
Yeah.
Speaking of Robbie, I have him in a league where he's on my bench. Galladay, DK, and Diggs. Should I try to trade him? Sure, you should always try to trade him. Sell high.
Always sell high. Always sell high.
Raheem Mostert, love to see that. Just so many guys coming to my head now, you know?
Keep it on going, baby. And we'll keep it on going here at Fantasy Focus. By the way, if you have not yet done so, this is your first time coming across the YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our fantasy football content for the rest of the 2020 NFL season. By the way, we break down our Monkey Knife Fight picks. If you have not checked out monkeyknifefight.com and you like prop bets for weekly NFL matchups, go ahead and check that out. Use the promo code FOCUS when you create an account. When you make your first deposit of $50 or more, use the promo code FOCUS, and Monkey Knife Fight will actually match your account up to $50 for your first deposit. And really, thank you for joining us live. This was a hell of a lot of fun, boys. The original crew back together. It feels reunited and it feels. Yep, you got it. Until next time, everybody. Later. That's it.
Yeah, love all the live interaction. Join us Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We will be live. We had a lot of interaction on this show, a lot of new names, new faces. Like Tate said, hit that subscribe button. Join us on Sunday, 10:30. We'll also be live a few times leading into the weekend here for some Monkey Knife Fight game-specific picks. So if you're interested in that, just quick 10, 15-minute videos there, highlighting a few of the games we like within there. But thanks so much for the support. Love every one of you, and we'll see you here on Sunday.
All right, good luck in week 2, guys. Appreciate it.